yellers. Welcome back to Why Am I Yelling? Musings from a middle-aged menopausal mom. I'm your host, Krista Rizzo, believer in all things woo-woo, believer in faith that the universe has my back, and super excited about a conversation that I recently had with Sari, who is a hypnotherapist and a really wonderful human. She is the host of the Uncharted Way podcast, and we had a really wonderful conversation a few days ago. So I am going to leave this here so you guys can watch us there. And if you have any questions or want to know more, reach out to me I can put you in touch with Sari. She's really wonderful and a really great, bright light in our world, doing really wonderful things. And we had a great conversation. So without further ado, yellers, I'm going to introduce you to Sari Cowsert. Please keep watching. See you later. Hello, yellers. We have a really great show for you today, and that's because we have a guest who is going to be talking about anxiety, control, and how to break the cycles that keep us stuck with a little hypnosis, myth busting, and maybe a laugh or two along the way. I happen to love this stuff, and so I'm really curious to learn how we can use it as we navigate through this midlife season that we're kind of in. So please welcome Sari Cowsert. Sari works with women caught in the chaos of anxiety, panic, and perfection. Who knows those people? Raise your hand. The ones who smile through the storm but are quietly unraveling inside. As a hypnotherapist and host of the Uncharted Way podcast, she helps them to break those cycles. We're not just managing symptoms, we're reclaiming our life, freedom, and power. And I love that statement so much. Hello, beautiful. Welcome to Why Am I Yelling? I'm so glad you're here.
I am so happy to be here. You are so powerful in your voice, and I am just excited to be in your space and to share
Oh,
it with you.
thanks. This is going to be fun. I love this stuff. I think this is really great. I have so many questions, and I know that I've sent them to you kind of earlier today. So we're going to just dive right in because I want to make sure we have enough time, right? So let's start with what drew you to doing this work, and why is it personal for you?
Oh, that one runs really deep.
Okay, great.
So the different version of myself that's not sitting here today was a version that was completely lost, to the point to where I always say society and our culture and our parents, they kind of put these layers of clothing on us that we begin to wear through our life that aren't necessarily ours or our opinions or our thoughts or our beliefs, but we take them on. And as we get older, the more and more that we take on, the more heaviness that we are carrying around. And that was me.
Yep.
My heaviness though was rooted in not only other people's beliefs, but it was rooted in fear. It was rooted in worry. It was my mother and father are both massive worriers and in different ways. My dad showed it on the outside and my mom internalized it. And for me, it showed up in anxiety. It showed up in fear of life, of
Yeah.
death. I was
Yeah.
scared to live because I was so scared of death. And so it created being a hypochondriac and all these things showing up in my body and being super sensitive
Sure.
to everything that I felt. And then I just would have these series of panic attacks. And at my worst, I would have 12 a day, perhaps.
Wow. Okay.
And these were debilitating. They were to the point to
Sure.
where I couldn't drive my children to school. And I depended on so many control things happening before I could even like get in the car because that's
Yep.
where most of them happened. My husband had to be available that I could call if I was having a panic attack, or if I was going to have to drive over this like certain bridge, I was going to have to make sure that someone was going to be available to come get me if something happened. So it was just everything had to be in its like nook and cranny
Yep.
before I could do so much of my life. And that was um, all happening internally.
Yeah.
Nobody in my life knew that I was like suffering with this on a day to day basis. And that's just explains the mask that we wear
Sure.
on a daily basis, and that silent suffering that most of us are going through to some degree.
Yeah.
And mine was just getting to the point to where I was like, I can't live life like this. And, doctors just wanted to give me a prescription
Right.
or put a Band-Aid on me. Counselors just wanted me to talk it out, but not give me any actually fucking tools to
Right.
deal with what I was
Right.
dealing with. So I would just walk away from each appointment that I thought was going to help me, and it never did. And ironically, at my worst, I went to a hypnotist because I was like, I'm fucking at the point to where like maybe I'll just get hypnotized. And at the
Yeah.
time, even thinking like hypnosis was like this taboo type kind of thing, like who am I to go get hypnotized? Unfortunately, it didn't work
Okay.
for several reasons, which we could get into.
Sure.
But it's ironic that now I am a hypnotherapist, um, because what happened was I was led down this track of understanding the subconscious mind and understanding that every single panic attack that I did have was because I had taught it to have it, not because it was coming out of nowhere. And so if I
That's
could teach my
fascinating.
body, yeah, to have
Yeah.
a panic attack, surely I could teach it to not have one. And that's where the subconscious rewiring comes in hypnosis.
So let's talk about that because I understand hypnosis. My mom actually did it many years ago to stop smoking, help her stop smoking.
Yep.
And I think it worked for a little while. But it didn't work completely because she ended up going back and then, the nicotine patch actually helped her quit. Fine. What I'm interested in you explaining to us what hypnosis is and what is some subconscious rewiring for somebody brand new who has never heard of these things. I want to know all about it.
Yeah. So the biggest thing was one of my really big teachers that really got me out of these cycles was Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he's a neuroscientist. And he really was the first person I remember hearing him speak. And I remember him thinking, this guy actually knows what's happening in my body. And he's able to explain it to me in a way that I can understand it.
Yep.
And doesn't make me feel like a fucking neurotic, crazy ass person. Right. Because in my mind, like, it seemed as if my panic attacks were coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And so talk about someone feeling really out of control when all they wanted to be was in control.
Yes.
So what my understanding became was when you have it's kind of like when you turn your computer on, right? Your computer just knows what to do, right? It knows that you're going to open this file. It knows that it's going to connect to the internet. It knows all these things. Well, our body knows all of these things too. In the same way of how many of you have driven your car somewhere and you don't know how the hell you got there, but you got there, right? You were lost in your thoughts, or maybe you were talking on the phone. And because that's an autonomic process in our body that we've now taught our body to just, okay, you drive home from work, you know how to get there. You don't really have to think about it. Just like when you get up in the morning, your body knows that it's going to walk to the bathroom and go to the bathroom.
Yep.
It knows that it's time for coffee. So it's going to make that coffee, all these things. So in that same way, I had now programmed my body to be like, well, it's 10 a.m., Sari, it's time to have a panic attack. And in reality, when we start to understand the system and the first thing of like where it starts, of just the thought of like, it's morning time, I want some coffee, right? It's the same thing of like, at this time, this is when I typically have a panic attack. So what should I be worried about right now?
Right.
So that's kind of where it starts, but also understanding that there's a lot of signals and signs for people to actually really start to see, oh, this is actually the thing that starts the spiral versus it being just out of nowhere, and being really conscious and cognizant of when it's starting.
Right. So in order to subconsciously rewire, you have to be conscious of what you want to change.
Yeah.
Is how I'm hearing this.
Right. And a lot of times the identifying thing is just, what is the thing that I'm obsessing about?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so interesting because as a life coach, that's what we talk about too, right? It's not therapy. It's finding goals on how to get out of the place where you feel are feeling stuck. Like when you talk about, feeling stuck or whatever it is, you kind of say to yourself, okay, I feel stuck in this. What are the tools I'm going to use to get out of this? And subconscious rewiring, hypnosis, visualization practice, all that stuff are tools in order for you to be able to understand why you feel stuck and then get out of that spot kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think a big piece of that too, that is the identity
Yeah.
that plays within the thing.
Yeah.
So for me, and I hear a lot of people talk about this of like, I am my diagnosis, or I was Sari who's anxious and who has panic attacks. Like I identified with that. And so
Sure.
when you identify as a mother,
Right.
all of these sorts of things, there's roles that we play within that identity game. And so also, if you're someone who's quote unquote depressed, right? How are you acting?
Yeah.
How are you behaving? How are you thinking? All of these go into play. You believe, behave, and then you become.
Yeah. Yes. And that's totally true. What do you think is one of the biggest myths about hypnosis?
Well, everybody has probably seen a stage hypnosis to some
Yes.
degree.
Right.
So
The magic act.
yes, everybody thinks that they are going to bark like a dog, or, walk like a duck, or whatever it is. And with that, so with hypnosis, there's different suggestibilities.
Yeah.
So we're all suggestible to information. It's just, are you someone who's going to what's the word when you're like gullible, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you someone who's really gullible and you're going to take in everything that somebody says, or you're like extremely resistant and you're like, no, I'm standing hard and firm in my choices? Well, the things that you experience on stage are those people that are really gullible, we call really suggestible.
Yeah.
They're going to do whatever we say. And so you're seeing this extreme thing, and people think, well, hypnosis is like taking away my will. And in actuality, it's quite the opposite, because a session will not work with
Right.
someone if they're like, I don't trust this person.
Right.
I'm doubting the process. And that was actually me when I had that first hypnosis session. Was one, I didn't connect with the facilitator.
Yeah.
There was no compassion, there was no rapport. And then I was, as much as I wanted to have faith that like it could work for me, I doubted it completely. So I didn't allow the process to happen. And so in reality, you're actually in more control in hypnosis than you think. I'm just the one who like shines a flashlight on you to see the things that you need answers to or need to change. And those are the things that typically in your subconscious, right? Like in most self-development work, we all know that our subconscious mind is built up of 95% of your mind. So that means 5% of it is only conscious. That's like taking a teaspoon to move a mountain.
Yeah.
Right? It's not easy. So in hypnosis, we're able to actually target that 95% of the programming that knows you how to get to work, with no problem. And we're teaching it how to get to work a different way that's more loving and joyful and feels like freedom, feels like power, instead of the worry or the doubt or the shame or the guilt, whatever that you're holding that's in that subconscious.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the anxiety piece, right? I know you probably help a lot of people who are dealing with anxiety. You yourself have dealt with it. You're dealing with it probably still every single day. It's not something that kind of goes away.
Right.
We learn how to manage, right?
Yes.
How do our bodies react to anxiety, and what is a way for us to be able to identify that?
That's a great question. And this goes back to everyone's different. And I didn't even realize that everyone was different until till I actually really healed from my own anxiety. For me, anxiety was very physical. So again, like my body was very loud. So, and this is also why I became a hypochondriac, because a lot of times when people first have an anxiety attack, they're like, my chest hurts, right? And they maybe even go to the ER because they think they're having a heart attack.
Sure.
Well, when you think about it, anxiety pumps adrenaline.
Yep.
So your heart starts racing, right? And then maybe you start to breathe a little heavier. And all of this energy is literally going to your chest.
Yeah.
Like no wonder that you're having some sort of like constriction happening. And so that's one way. But if you actually looked up the symptoms, the physical symptoms of anxiety, there's over 100.
Right. It's like a mile long. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've probably had every single one of those. Um, and it could be your palms getting sweaty. It could be, all of a sudden you're having pain in some place in your body, right?
Yep.
Like all these things are happening. But what I didn't know that my husband, he's a ER nurse. So he would come home and he'd tell me, babe, you're fine. Like nothing's wrong with you. And I'm like,
Right.
how the
Yes,
fuck
there
can you
is.
say that? Yeah.
Right.
I'm dealing with multiple situations a day. How can you sit here and say that I'm fine? But that was because he also associated like in the ER, people are like really sick.
Yeah.
They are having strokes. They are
Right.
having
Having heart attacks. Yeah.
all those things. And I'm like, but that's the dissociation from like mental wellness and physical wellness.
Yep.
And so what's funny too is he actually has told me now, he's like, I always thought I didn't have anxiety. He's like, but I just didn't have it the way that you had it.
Right.
And so there's the mental manifestation of it's just the looping thoughts. It's just the
Yes.
like obsessive thoughts and pathways in which you're obsessing about. It might not show up physically for you, but it's still there and it's still causing a level of stress in your body, whether
Yep.
you're physically experiencing it or not.
Okay. So go back to looping thoughts, right? So our bodies loop in thoughts, right? And like feeling cycles, I guess.
Yes.
I've been doing a lot of reading on this. What are some everyday signs that show us that your anxiety loop has taken over?
Yeah. So it can going back to kind of like that spiral. And in reality, we're all addicts,
Yes.
is what it comes down to.
Yes. In some way, shape, or form, yes, for sure.
Yes. Because when we have a thought, like let's just use you for example, Krista. What do you feel like is something that maybe takes over for you?
Um, World events are what keep me up at night.
Okay. So can we use the like current one that just happened?
I mean, sure.
Okay. So obviously, if you're listening to this, and this is probably coming out a later date, but Charlie Kirk, the shooting of him
Yep.
just happened, right? So let's just say looping thoughts is when that happened, like what was the first thought that came to your mind that happened? When
It's
you found
probably
it
the
out?
same thought that comes to my mind every single time I hear of a shooting. It has nothing to do with any. It literally is, why are we stop shooting people? Like stop.
Mhm.
Right. So, and I go through this loop of, um, we can stop this. How can we stop this? How can I help be better at trying to stop this? And it goes like, I just get really, I'm not necessarily worried about it happening to me or to people that I know, although I know people who have been around it or have been affected by it more personally than I have. But like just being a mom and, worrying about your kids. I have a kid off at college. Like there's other layers to it. I think that play into the whole thing. But
Sure.
my first reaction is always, why is this even happening?
What do you feel like is the emotion behind that?
Um, Anger.
Okay. So let's roll with that. So if we're someone that is having anger, right? And there are people that truly have like anger issues and rage, right? That comes
Sure.
out. Obviously, we're not saying that that's you, and
No,
people
I'm not that different. Yes. Yeah.
display it differently than others. But for you, this is anger. So now you're having a thought that's sending a message, right, to your adrenals
Sure.
that's saying, we're angry.
Yeah.
So then your body produces the feeling of anger. And then guess what it wants more of because it's an addict.
Right. More.
So it's
more
like,
of that.
give me another thought.
Yeah.
Okay, then what's the next thought? I have children. What
Yeah.
if they are in this situation, right? Then
Right.
that there again sends that more chemical emotion of fear back to the adrenals, telling the body again, we want some more, right?
Right.
And it is literally addicted to this thing. And that's
Yeah.
what creates the loop in the feeling. And it's not so much that you can't get out of it, but so in reality, do you know how long it takes for those chemical emotions to leave the body?
I have no idea.
Some people would guess months. Some people
Yeah.
would guess weeks, days. It takes 120 seconds.
Right.
So going
As
back
fast as it
to,
comes in, it can go.
right.
Right.
But how many of us like think about gossip, right? Or you call your mom or your sister and you're like, can you believe what just happened? Right. We're fueling it again.
Sure.
And obviously, like there's some situations where like that's joyous, right? We
Right.
want to share. In the same way, it's an addiction. But and just to take it back for me for a second for anxiety,
Yeah.
like that was the thing that it wanted more of. And even just putting myself in more situations that like created more of this fuel, this fire of this anxiety of let's have it more. And the more that you do it, is more that feeds into that identity, that personality that you are becoming.
Yep.
And so recognizing what is the emotion that I'm holding on to most, and am I identifying with that emotion more often? Is that becoming who I am? Am I becoming an angry person?
Yeah.
Am I becoming a fearful person? You know, whatever that might look like.
Yep.
And so the body wanting more of what you're giving it, it's like we'll find things to attach to, right? Like things that like normally wouldn't even like piss you off. All of a sudden you like find out that you're angry.
Yes.
Because it's looking for it.
Yeah. And I think anger is just a common feeling for a lot of people these days, right? There's just so much happening at light speed. 120 seconds is not a lot of time, right? And
no,
it makes perfect sense. Like if you practice yoga or if you do any kind of meditation or things like that, right? You have intrusive thoughts and you're taught, oh, well, just think of something different and breathe through it for, 120 seconds or 5 times, like, and those are ways that you can feel better. So tell me what's one small practice that you do in order to kind of shift that 120 seconds.
Yeah. Well, I think, like I said, the first thing is really just identifying what the emotion is that you're in.
Yeah.
And, so much of my questioning of really starting to get out of the anxious pattern was just like feeling like, okay, this has consumed my life and there's got to be more for me in this.
Yep.
And so to decide, I don't want to be this version of myself anymore. Yep. And there's got to be something better, and like trusting that there is that. And then the second thing, yes, breath was huge for me. When we talk about that 120 seconds and driving in a car, one of the things I used to do to distract myself from my anxiety when I was at home was I would like play solitaire on my phone, because ultimately it's a distraction.
Yeah. I'm
getting myself out of the brain pattern to do something else. So of course I would calm down, because after 120 seconds of playing solitaire, I was fine. Well, obviously I couldn't play solitaire in my car.
Right. On the way to pick up the kids.
Yeah. So the box breath, which is super easy. It's just breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding it at the bottom for 4.
Yep.
You do that for 5 to 6 rounds. I guarantee you that your nervous system is going to change.
Yeah, 100%.
And that 120 seconds of those emotions, those chemicals that you've fueled your body with, are going to calm down. And, the biggest thing, which when I was suffering from anxiety, I didn't know what your nervous system was. I didn't know that we had one. I didn't know that there were 2 types.
Yeah.
There's your parasympathetic, which is your rest and repair, and your sympathetic, which is your heightened. And you can also be like really joyous in your sympathetic nervous system. But I didn't know that I was in my sympathetic 24/7, because it was a form of fight or flight, a form of survival.
Yeah.
And also ended up having, a couple of diagnoses, which no wonder, because my body was in survival 24/7.
Yeah.
And so if you can even just give yourself once a day doing this round of breath to like say like I'm back into my nervous system, my
Yeah.
rest and repair, your body's going to love you a lot more, and you're going
Yeah.
to start feeling physical changes whether you know it or not.
Yeah. And I think that, there's a trust level there, right? There's a trust level with whatever practitioner you're working with, or more importantly, the trust level that you have within yourself, right? Like if you trust yourself to use the tools to address the anxiety or the feeling that you have identified, right? That empowers you to kind of get through that episode or emotion or that feeling or that situation that you've just come into.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think with that, you saying that, there, it really changes, the word empowerment, right? Really
Yeah.
changes from needing something outside of yourself to trusting that you can do this on your own.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, what really also fueled my anxiety was, whether it was the people I needed to call or trying to see another doctor or another therapist that maybe will help me. I was always looking for that external thing that was going to support me. And, talking about the breath, sometimes I'm just fucking flabbergasted at the fact that no counselor that I saw offered me some sort of breath, some sort of tool to get me
Wow.
through that.
I feel like that's number one.
Right. I
Yeah.
agree.
It's the
That's
easiest.
right. Like I always say, like to all of the clients that I work with, I'm going to give you a tool bag, and you're going to have that tool bag so heavy by the time you leave with me that you're not going to need me anymore. And
Yeah.
that's the point. So
Right.
that you empower yourself to be a different version. And when we turn that from needing an outside source, whether it's a doctor or facilitator, and obviously like those support us, right? We're both
Sure.
sitting here and we
Yes.
support people and we have our roles. But at the end of the day, I want to see my people thrive because I've empowered them to be able to do it on their own.
Yeah. I love that. Here's a fun little question. If you could hypnotize the entire world for 5 minutes, what belief would you plant?
Mm.
Yeah. There's a lot. I have a list.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's a hard one. Beliefs I would plant would be you're enough. Um, you're more powerful than you know. You're
Yep.
more connected than you know. So much for me of my healing really happened when I started connecting to a power bigger than me.
Yeah.
And I think so much fear comes from this control aspect that we have to do it alone.
Yep.
But when we actually start to begin to feel that we are connected to something bigger than ourselves, it's like we don't have to carry it all
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
And I think so much of this world thrives off of that control factor that we aren't here. We're just here like as humans trucking it and trying to figure it out ourselves versus there is something bigger that's conspiring with us.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So let's go back to, I'm going to backtrack a bit. Advocacy and advocating for yourself, right? You knew that the first time you went and had a hypnotherapist, it didn't work for you. So how did you decide to advocate for yourself? My favorite 4-letter word is help, HELP, aside from the other more colorful 4-letter words that we like to use. But I feel like I learned in my experience going from my corporate job into coaching as a major life shift and career shift for myself 10 years ago was that I fell into the trap of the belief that was handed down to me from generations of you're the woman, your job is to make sure everybody is taken care of. You need to, take care of your job, you need to take care of your kids, you need to take care of your husband, you take care of your house. And I was taught basically to put myself last. And I know that every other woman on the planet has felt that in some way, shape, or form, right? And it wasn't until I was 40 years old sitting on the the floor of my bedroom, that I needed to kind of advocate for myself and ask for help. And so I think, what does that look like for your clients, or like standing up for yourself and saying words like, I actually need help? Like, how do you encourage that in your clients?
Mm. I think that's such a huge one. Well, number one, going back to even just we're taught to play small, right?
Yeah.
Talk about even just silencing ourselves, just to say that, like, oh, I don't need help. Like, let me figure this out on my own. There's a balance there of, I think advocating was for me, like, initially going to my doctors and saying, hey, this medication that you've put me on isn't doing a thing, and I
Right.
need it to change.
Right.
And like, whether it's that, or saying, just even being able to say that I'm struggling right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
Like, that's so hard for so many people to say. And I think because we live in this world where you scroll your Instagram and Susie Joe over here just had the perfect vacation with her husband, right? But what you wouldn't know behind the scenes is that that vacation with her husband, they decided to get a divorce,
Right. They
right?
fought the whole time. It was right. Right.
Right. And this is that perfect, white picket fence American dream that people are trying to live beyond. But like, shit sucks.
Yes.
And like, we're all suffering in some kind of way. And so being able to share that, like, I'm actually suffering
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't have my shit together,
Right.
and that's okay. That's part of the fucking human condition.
Yeah. I think vulnerability is hard for a lot of people.
It is. And I was that person
Yeah,
who,
me too.
I masked it big time. Like, oh, look at me. I have the perfect life, but here I am suffering in my fucking car over here.
Right.
Don't mind me. Um, so it's that. And now, like, I share my vulnerability like a superpower,
Yeah.
because I want to give people permission that it's okay that you don't have your shit together.
Yeah. Permission is another one of my favorite words too.
Yes.
Okay, we're running out of time. So what's one message you want
Already?
listeners to walk away with? I know this was fast.
What is
Fast. When it's a
one
good conversation,
message?
it's fast. Yeah. One message you want our listeners to walk away with.
Um, that people are innately good.
Yeah.
And if you share something that you are struggling with, the judgment isn't going to come from them. It's going to come from you.
Oh.
So, how do you want to see yourself?
That's good. I wish I had more time with you. I like to keep these episodes because I know how people, lose their our distraction mechanisms are very high as humans, right? So thank you so much for being here and for teaching us about this. And I think for women like myself who are in middle age, this is a time in our lives when we are doing a lot of reflecting. And there's a lot of stuff that's showing up in our bodies and happening with our bodies that it's like, oh shit, what is this? I don't know what this feeling is, or I don't know what that is. And what am I supposed to be doing for myself?
Right.
And I think the more tools that you have, regardless of the stage of life you're in, the better off you are for being able to navigate your anxiety or whatever it is that, kind of holds you back. And I love to encourage women to kind of step out of their comfort zone and own who you are, own the feelings that you're having, own the symptoms that you're having in your bodies. If you're going through some kind of menopausal situation hi, that's me. But like, own it and be okay with it and understand that, I say this a lot, other people's opinions of you are none of your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's none of my business what you think about me. It's my business what I think about me, right? And it's my business what I put out into the world to help other people, right? So you are doing just that. So thank you for all the wonderful, beautiful work that you are doing. I think it's important for us to share these conversations and have these conversations. So thank you for coming on here and having this conversation with me. I also close every episode out with a segment called What's for Dinner? because as busy moms, it's our least favorite question of the day typically because it's asked 27,000 times. So what's for dinner tonight at your house?
What's for dinner? Well, luckily, yesterday my husband made this really delicious kind of like vegetable stew homemade soup,
Yum.
and we make it in bulk. So that's probably happening for the rest of the week.
Excellent. I love that. And I love a good leftover. It's better the day after.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. For more information on Sari, please go to thegrowthgoddess.net, right? Or follow her on Instagram at the.growth.goddess. And you can learn about how you can work with her. You can learn about all the great tools that she puts out there into the world wide web. And learn more about how you can advocate for yourself and stand up for yourself and empower your friends to do the same. I think that's a good message for today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being here, yellers. You know how much I love you. Like, share, follow us, subscribe, do all the things on all the social media channels, and get us wherever you get your podcasts. I love you all. Thanks for being here.